shaded areas on your resume that would not work in your favor. So when we talk about the marketing via a resume, for the record, there are three types of basic resumes, excluding federal government. Chronological, which is the most common one, which everyone uses, functional, and then a combination of the two. How you use each one of these will all depend on your unique circumstances and your previous working experience. Okay. Chronological resume is, quite frankly, if you stayed in the same line of work and you did the same job, or your duties from each job are somewhat close, your positions are somewhat close and they overlap each other, then you should probably use this. It's good if you have a good working background and you have no employment gaps. Chronological resume is, hopefully my quite frankly, if you stayed in the my same link didn't work. And you did the same Let me just switch over real quick. I'll see if I can get this document up for you guys. The same thing when it comes to that's something. Of course, exit out real quick. Okay, this is a copy. Can everyone see this? Make sure. Can you see this resume? Hello?
Yeah, it's just really small, but
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Well, the most
Yeah, I
important
can see
part is
it.
that it's showing up. I can zoom in on it. Is that better?
Yes, better.
That's much better. Thank you.
Shaded areas on your resume. That's a little too much. Can everyone see this? Let's try this one.
It's just really small,
Okay,
but
that's probably
yeah.
better. Okay, I'm don't need you necessarily concentrate on the verbiage. I need you to concentrate on the formatting. Okay, this is my chronological resume. You see, I got a professional summary up there, or or a professional profile, and it's explaining to the employer who I am, what my experience level is, and what are my unique specialties. And then we go down to my employer, the city, and the state of my employer, the time that I work, and also my title. And then in my particular case, I have, because my position, I have different facets of what I do. I have a section that talks about placement. I have a section that talks about development and implementation of policies. I go a little too far. Okay. And then we talk about training and coordination. And then we go on to my next employer. Okay. Still kind of staying in the same aspect. Now, if you look at my previous employer, Office of Naval Research, that has nothing to do with disability. Okay. So, in order for me to use a chronological resume, the one thing that this resume has in common between the two jobs is policies, planning, implementation of those policies and planning. Not so much as disability, because when I worked for the Office of Naval Research, I did not have any disability issues.
I think the screen is frozen. Was there a question being asked, Mr. Brownlee?
I'm sorry.
I said your screen froze for a minute.
Oh no. Is it still frozen?
No, you're good now.
Okay. Well, I apologize. I'm on a
I know, sir.
hotel's connection.
I know, sir.
Okay, but at the end of the day, I don't know what you guys heard it, but I had to, in order for me to use a chronological resume, I had to make these two jobs align with each other as much as possible. So I concentrate on the things that were alike: the coordination, the policy implementation, the planning aspect of it. The disability piece I could not touch on because at my previous employer, I didn't work with disability. Okay, so let's get back to the presentation. Okay. And then the next format of resume we have is a functional resume. This is the most flexible and the most user-friendly resume that's out there. It takes attention away from the dates that you worked. It takes attention away from if you have an employment gaps. It allows you to only to talk about the knowledge, skills, and abilities you have in your working background that directly align or associates with the position you're trying to get. Okay. Everything else in your working background, if it doesn't relate to it, you do not have to mention it or talk about it at all. This is good if you got lapses of employment, you're trying to go into another career and your background somewhat lines up, but it doesn't actually, you can pretty much tailor it a little bit more and tweak it to make it actually fit into that new career. It's good if you just graduated because you can write your resume based off your curriculum, off the classes and labs and things that you've taken. You can build your resume based off that. But it's definitely good for those who have that diverse working background. It allows you to be more flexible, for you to reach, twist, and bend to get your resume to show that you're qualified for the position that you're trying to example. A PowerPoint for our non-visual consumers also. So some of these still have sound on them, so I'll forgive me for that. All right. So this is an example. Let me zoom in some more. This is an example. That's not good. This is an example of a functional resume. And professional summary, this time we have a set of skills. But where it difference is where I have, let me take this away.
Mr. Brownlee, I think there's somebody out in the lobby trying to get in. I got one of my students online, Mr.
Okay.
Hollis.
All right, bear with me. Let me switch over.
He's going to try to switch over. He's operating off of one computer right now, so it's kind of hard for him to see who's in the lobby. Okay,
Okay.
he just let
All right.
somebody in. Okay, Darius, you're in.
Okay. All right. So can you see the example still? The resume example?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes.
So the difference between this resume and let's say a standard resume is once you get to the work experience, you see that there's no employer listed. What you would do here, you would just group all of your duties, responsibilities as it relates to show that you're qualified for the position that you're trying to obtain. The dates, the employer locations, the employer name, and the title of your position that is not used at this moment. This is just strictly duties as it pertains to the qualifications and the requirements. Then there's a separate section to where you list your employment history. You list the position, the employer, the location, and then you put the dates. Now, if we take a little look at this, we'll see that she was a service specialist. That's her most recent paraprofessional, and then we see a special protective officer. That's security. But if we go back to the first page of her resume, none of her duties talk about security at all. Everything in her professional experience totally connects with how she identified herself. Okay, she has more than 10 years experience in office administrative support. So we got office skills, and then we got office duties and responsibilities. No security is listed in here whatsoever. And let's just say that she wanted to go back into security. She would just reverse that. She would just put all her security experience and she would remove her admin experience. So this one, even though she does have a security background, everything listed here only supports her qualifications, knowledge, skills, and abilities and experience to show she will be qualified for that admin position. No security is mentioned whatsoever. But she can reverse that. She can have all the security duties here. But once she does that, then she would need to list all of the skill sets that would be associated with the security officer. Okay. And then her professional summary would change to show that she has how many years that she has as a protective officer, What are the uniqueness of her knowledge, skills, and abilities, and what is she proficient at when it comes to being a security officer. But as far as the hitter, that still remains the same. Okay, I'm gonna go over that a little bit later. And then the education level. My professional opinion, if it aligns with the position that you're trying to get, like if let's say that I have a law degree and I was applying for a job as a lawyer, it'll be in my best interest to put my education right below my professional summary. So I will put it in between my professional summary and my summary of skills. I'm putting my education in front of them, up in their face at the very beginning. People want to tell you different things, but I choose that because if you do it, you put your education at the bottom and you have the education level, you're requiring that person to get to the very bottom of your resume to see that. In some cases, in some cases, they may not get past the first three or four bullets of your duties and responsibilities. This allows them the opportunity to see your education up front if you put it there. But more importantly, by the time the employer, if you use this format, you got first, so therefore own skill sets that align with the position, and then they go on to the duties. They see all your duties, responsibilities, assignments, and your accomplishments. And then by the time they get down to your working history, they've just about finished your resume to where they may not be concerned about what your position titles are. They may not be concerned about how much time you spent at one location. Because on the first page, they may have already gotten all the information they need. That's why this resume has the best propensity to work with you in that regards. Because by the time they finish the last bullet, your resume is just about finished. They've read through all the meat of it. If you were to go back to a standard resume, and let's say you had 5 jobs, they read the first job and they read the duties and responsibilities. They may be interested with that. Then they go on to the second job, and that's when they lose interest. They stop reading your resume at that point. Maybe a benefit, you fall into that 6 to 7 second window. If they're not reading the information they need, if they're not being able to extract and make the assessments based off what you have in your resume, if they lose interest, they put it down, they may never come back to it. So that's why this one works in that regards. Okay. And then the last one we have is a combination of the two. This is recommended for those that are in the arts community and also those who have computer or IT backgrounds, such as some of the folks who may be on this line right now. This is the best way where you can market yourself to where you got skill sets and you also have competencies, such as the study of the different softwares, the different to a few other fields, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, let me pause this. Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to pull that one up. Okay. That file got corrupt a couple days ago, so I had to recreate it on my thumb drive. So bear with me. I don't need to format it. Uh-oh. All right, the drive's not working. Okay, one more place to check. Hopefully this one will open up. Okay, good. All right. So this is just like the functional resume, and when you talk about the header, it's just like the all the resumes will start off the same with the professional summary. Where it differs is the technical competencies and the core competencies. So as you see, as it relates to this is an IT resume. Let me just back up and explain. Okay, this is a resume of a person who recently graduated from University of Maryland University College. They got a degree in cybersecurity. So I took his college curriculum and I built his resume based off that. So we got the software, we got the computer languages, and we got these. I looked at the labs. I looked at the different modules that he took, and I put these in there. And then we went a little bit further with the focuses. Okay. And then we went down and oh, this is kind of messed up. Hold on a second. I apologize for the formatting. I've been moving around documents so much. But anyway, we I looked at everything he did when it came to him and his schoolwork, and I looked at all the different tasks, all the different assignments, the labs, the functions, and then I cross-referenced a few job announcements, and I sat down with him, and we went over job announcement line by line. Did you do this? Did you know how to do that? Did you do this? With his resume, so get this last bullet taken care of. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. All right. So just I'm zooming out just for the sake of the aesthetics of his resume. Okay. So that would be page one, and then page two would be the actual functions. And then if we zoom in just real quickly, the flexibility of this, when we look at his education, okay, we know where he got that from. But in his case, I wanted to put his skills first. I wanted to put his core competencies first because that's what was essential for the job. But if we look at his working experience, he was an events director and an usher for his church. But if you were an employer looking for someone who has a background or training in IT, and you read all these and all these items are what you're looking for, and then you start to read the duties, responsibilities, everything checks off, you may stop right here at the education. So and the fact that he was an usher does not mean anything because you've already found what this person's skill set is, what his abilities are, what his experience is. And therefore that's how you may qualify for the position or at least get called in for an interview. And the interview is basically a cross check to make sure that what you put in your resume, you actually have the knowledge of it. Okay. So I promise I'll get back to the hitter. When we talk about the resume, the basic format, the demographic information, your name, physical address, in this day and age, they're optional. Back in the old days in the 1900s when I was a job seeker, okay, I'm in my late 50s now, okay, we got our responses via post office. You guys in this modern IT world, you're going to get your responses via email or voicemail. So your physical address is optional. It's not required to be on your resume. The only exception is federal government. But that's a different animal. That's a different training. Okay. So if you want to put it on there, that's fine. I recommend if you're going to be applying for jobs outside of a 35-mile radius, I recommend you don't put it on there because some employers, like if I were to take a job, let's say in Cumberland, Maryland, which is like way out in the panhandle, close to West Virginia, I don't want them to use the fact that we have snow days as a deciding factor for that I'm qualified for this position. I want them to say, oh well, on snow days, he's going to call out. He's not going to make it. I want to be graded on my knowledge, skills, abilities, and experience. Okay. And then next, we got these are just the sections. As I mentioned, we got the qualifications, professional summary. If you got a degree in the field that aligns with the job that you're applying for, you put your education level first with your degrees, your certifications, your licenses, your trainings.
There's a question from Miss Ferguson. She's got a hand up.
Okay, go ahead.
It's okay, Mr. Flemings. I'll let you get away with that. It's Flanagan. So I've been told, like, when I do my quote unquote summary of my job skills, not to put that I have over 20 years experience working in federal and state government because I could be labeled as, well, you're close to retirement, so you're not somebody we want to hire.
Okay. The industry standard when it comes to going back into your history is 10 years. Okay. So if you put 20 years and let's just say there's some indicator, let's say that in your email address, which is another red flag, you put, let's say your email, you said your name was Flanagan, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And what's your first initial?
A,
Okay. You put A Flanagan 68. The employer is going to assume that either your birthday is June 8th or you were born in 1968. I take 1968, I subtract it from 2024, and now I have your age. The same thing, if you look at the average person starts work between the ages of 17, 18, 19. Okay. Now, if you throw in college, we're talking about 25, 26. Now you're going to add 20 years in the federal government to that. So that tells me that you're 46 years old or 46 plus. You don't want to give them any indication to where, because they're, regardless of how much we think, there's still discrimination in this world. There's age discrimination, there's disability discrimination, there's race discrimination, and now there's gender discrimination. Your responsibility is to remove all those elements so you can be based off your knowledge, skills, and abilities as a whole working professional. So, and more importantly, 20 years ago, let's say you were in IT. The computer world 20 years ago is totally different than where we are today. 20 years ago, I think we had the iPhone 4, and now we're on the 16. 20 years ago, I think we were on Windows 2000. Well, 2000, maybe Windows 8, and now we're on Windows 11. So by you saying 20 years, unless you have some updated training on your resume, some of the practices that you're telling me up front, I may not be interested in because that's old technology, that's old practices. You're not modernized. So that's why the resume is only once you go back 10 years, and that's why you should only mention that you got 10 plus years experience. You don't mention anything beyond 10 years. The plus leaves room for the imagination. You want to be in front of an employer to explain your 20 years. And when you explain your 20 years, depending on your energy and your presentation and your marketing skills, they will not prejudge you because they can see in person rather than just reading something and disqualifying you just based off what they read. They'll see your energy level. They see that you have a can do attitude. They see the positive energy in you. And therefore, it wouldn't it wouldn't make that much of a difference rather than just reading it in a text. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it does.
All right. So we got the employment history, however you put it in there, whether it's standard, functional, or combination. The most important things I can tell you too, folks, is volunteership, especially with the federal government. Volunteer work in most cases is seen as valid work and experience. If you are working in the same capacity as to it. A perfect example, I got a young man a job as a manager just for what he did by being a scout leader. He was a scout leader for his son's troop leader, from the time his son was 6 until the time his son graduated from high school. That's how long he was a troop leader. So he had that leadership background. So do not leave that out. If it matches or aligns with the position you're applying for, throw that volunteership in there. I had another gentleman, he was a church treasurer. He came into the federal government. Federal government only needed 1 year specialized experience handling finances. By him working with the church over 15 plus years, he met the qualifications. Okay, so and that was strictly he got the job strictly off of what he did as a volunteer for the church. Because when you go to church, and you're a treasurer in some capacities, most churches you don't get paid. It's you're doing it for the church, you're doing it for the congregation, and you're also doing it for the Most High. So keep that in mind. Your professional memberships and your licensings, like I'm a member of SHRM, Society apply for a job as a recruiter or HR specialist, recruiter or the hiring manager. That because I'm in the same organization they're in, we somewhat have the same training. So keep that in mind. All right, moving right along. This now we get into the good part of it. When you talk about writing your duties, responsibilities, think of it as an ice cream cone. What do you see on top? You see the sprinkles, then you see the ice cream cone. I mean, I see the ice cream, then you see the cone. The strongest part of an ice cream cone such as this is the cone itself. Always at the very point. The point is the strongest. I can hold this ice cream cone up just by the tip, and it'll hold up everything. But you can look at this as your resume. The sprinkles is your professional summary and your skills. The ice cream is your actual duties and responsibilities. And all this needs to be supported by the structure of it, the formatting. If I take away the cone, you just got ice cream all over the counter. If I take away the cone in the ice cream, you just got a bunch of sprinkles all over the place. Each layer, each piece is vital to the presentation of this thing we call an ice cream cone. The same thing with your resume. Now, I'm going to mention a little bit later that you must quantify in your resume or use quantification. That's a big word. I felt I needed to explain it. So I looked up quantification. Quantification told me to quantify. I looked up quantify and it broke it down for me. When we talk about quantification, it's the values, totals, and sums of. So moving forward, formula number one on how to write the body of a resume: quantify your work and experience. Tell me what, how much, how many, how often, and for who. And if you look at my example, it's color coded as a what, receptionist supporting how many,
9 medical offices.
how many, at least medical personnel, how often, daily, for who, rehabilitation and orthopedic provider. So that's the what, the how much, the how many, the how often. If you use this formula, every single statement is going to be full and complete. It's going to give you, it's going to tell them the context, it's going to give them a action, and it's going to give them a result. Everyone get this? If I don't hear any objections, I'm going to move on.
You're
Okay.
good, Mr. Brown.
All right. Formula number two. You've heard of the STAR method for interviews. Well, you can use the STAR method for your resume. Tell me the situation, describe your role, your position, and what you were tasked to do. Give me three or four assignments, and then give me the actions and activities you took to address that assignment, and then the results of you taking that activity to address that assignment or that task. If you do that for each one of your duties, so if I answered phones and I gave you a situation, I gave you the task, I gave you the activity, and I gave you the results, I have a full and complete statement, no holes, no hiccups. And if I did that for every single one of my duties, now I now have a full resume. If I do it correctly, I probably have to cut things out. Before I probably had a blank slate. Now I got more than what I need, and it's always best to have more than you have less, because when you have more, you can pick and choose how you need to shorten it. So that's formula number two. And then formula number three, if you get a set of good, solid skills that are related to the position, then you use the skills as an outline to write your duties. So as we see here, I have them alphabetized. His skill says 9 years as a custodial supervisor. And then his work experience, he tells what he supervised, how he supervised, or you can put it however you want to do it, what he supervised, how he supervised. And then the next one, ability to handle the following equipment. And then you look down inside the work experience, I utilize or I explain what he did with that specialized equipment. So your skill sets, your skill list is an outline for you to write the actions into your working experience. Okay. And then the last one, I think it's one more. Let me just check real quick. Yeah. Okay. The last one, this is more on the sales and the financial aspect of it. The value of your work, use a connecting word, and then the description or activity, responsibility, or duty. So this is more on the upscale. Okay. So the example is the value of the work helped increase more than $15 million in sales, okay, which is 25% greater over the last 11 years. And then he mentions the growth profit, the connecting word, buy, and then the action that supports how he was able to increase, the growth. That's another way of looking at it. This is more on the high end side. This is more on the, I want to say, the financial side, or the upper management side, definitely in sales. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. And the last one is a combination of number one actually, and this one, the value of the work, the connecting word, and then the quantifying activity. So we got the value of it, the numbers, the dollars, the signs, by, and then directing an 8-person inventory. That's the what. We got the how, and so forth. So that's how you will write the body of your job descriptions when you're writing your jobs. Five simple formulas. Because at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to put your best foot forward. That's been said over and over and again all throughout life. Understand that your resume is your first point of contact in most cases with employers. And sadly enough, in some cases, it's pass or fail. Either you are what they're looking for or you're not. This slide here just reiterates what I told you about the working experience. The volunteer experience is just as valuable as the paid experience. If it's relatable and it's transferable to the job that you're trying to get, then it's in your best interest to list that as a non-paid position on your resume also. The do's and don'ts, and we're coming to a close, okay? Do customize your resume for every single job you're applying for. Even if it's the same job title, I guarantee you The requirements are always going to be different. Okay. Number two, always put your skills up front. Showcase that you have the know-how, you have the skills, you have the abilities. If you have space, or you feel you got excessive space and you don't have enough to say, then you go over, you list a few accomplishments. Show the employer that you did more than just come to work and collect a paycheck, that you contributed to that company's success. You made a valuable contribution every single day. The don'ts: be careful of the elaboration or the misinterpretation or the run on. I tell you this: it's always difficult for someone else to write your resume, but it's more difficult for you. If someone writes your resume, you better be able to recite that resume and know that resume when you're standing in front of an employer, because that employer is going to ask you a question. If you didn't write that resume, if you're not familiar with it, then it's going to come across as, okay, well, something's not right here. Get the part of you. If someone wrote it for you, I implore you to study it, get to know it well, because there's going to be a question of some statement that was made in your resume. If you don't know that statement, then you're going to come across as being, deceptive. Do not over elaborate or over exaggerate your knowledge, skills, and abilities and experience. They're gonna be able to tell. Okay. Um, be mindful not to put personal information on your resume. Don't put, that you're a Baptist. The employer doesn't need to know that, nor should they be able to actually see that, so they can actually evaluate you on that. Nor should they able be should be able to evaluate you on that. There's some resumes I've seen to where in my spare time I like to do. The employer doesn't care about what you do in your spare time. The employer should not care about what your religious affiliation is, or what special group you belong to. If it's not a professional group, leave it out. What you do in your spare time, your hobbies, who you are outside of a working professional is irrelevant to them. They want to know about the professional person that you are. Keep your resume as your professional profile. When it comes to the dates, they give you a little bit more flexibility. If you can give the month and the year, that's sufficient. You don't need to have the actual date, the day of the week, so to speak. But if you can just put a 1 or 2 month, if you don't know whether it was February or March, they'll give you that grace period, because it'll be somewhere around that time, and they'll verify what that is, and then they're not going to penalize you for being 1 month off. But if you're like 6 months off or you're a year off, that's totally different. Okay. Be mindful of templates. Do not. I recommend don't use templates, because templates, one, they're hard to modify, and you're gonna be changing your resume up on a regular basis. And when you give it to somebody else, it may not be able to be read, depending on what kind of screen some formats are not transferable. Okay, but when you have a template, you got to keep in mind that at some point in time, it's going to be copied and it's going to be uploaded into someone's system. You want all of your information to be retained in the proper location that's in. Also, be mindful, don't be too jazzy with the design of your resume. You want them to be focused more on the words rather than the appearance. As long as it's neat, it's presentable, and I can navigate from top to bottom, and I can understand where the section breaks are, then you should be good to go. There was a trend going around a couple of years ago that you could put your picture on your resume. Don't do that. That was a fad. That was a phase that has come and gone. No images whatsoever. No special unique W's or characters. Keep your resume in one simple font. It's okay to enlarge a few words here and there, but don't go overboard with it. If you have a college degree, you don't need your high school diploma. You don't need to list your high school diploma, because a high school diploma is a prerequisite in order for you to get in college. So if you have a degree, even if it's an AA, that your highest education oversteps your high school diploma. If they need it a little bit later, they're going to ask for it. But if you got a college degree, that's all you need to put is your college, your university, and the degree you have. Okay. If you if you went to college and you did not receive a certificate of completion or a diploma, then you don't put it on your resume. If you are currently in college and the study is still going on, then you would put a expected graduation date. But if you did not complete it, do not put it on there. If you never gone back to pursue it, don't put it on there because that opens questions to, well, why haven't you gone back? And some employers may see you as a person who can't complete tasks because this is something that was important that you never completed. And let's say, hypothetically speaking, you took a college, you started your first semester of college in 1996, and you never went back. And here it is, 2024. That doesn't look good with the employers. So if you completed it, be sure that you put the citation, the certificate, or the diploma, or the degree. If you didn't complete it, then leave it off. You can include your GPA, but understand that it's believe it or not, I've seen people put low GTAs on their resumes. If your GTA is not substantial, then leave it off. Okay, but if you have a decent or comparable GPA, then you should put it on your resume. But the key is, and I mentioned this earlier, when you're writing your resume, it's you putting your best foot forward. You are marketing yourself. You're trying to sell your knowledge, skills, and abilities to the employer. So no derogatory information should be on your resume. Nothing to where they can judge you negatively should be on your resume. All right, we're in the closing. Another advice I can give you, your resume should not read like a job announcement. The one-liners are not going to be sufficient. Answering phones on a daily basis, that is not a actual job duty. That is a job description. Now, answering 350 phone calls on a daily basis, supporting 9 program managers at a rehabilitation agency, that is a complete statement. You're supposed to show what you do. Don't tell what you do. Answering the phones on a daily basis is telling what you did. Showing what you did is that second example. Answering 350 phone calls on a daily basis, supporting 9 program managers at 14 different locations. That is how you market yourself. That is how you make yourself valuable. Marketing, advertising your knowledge, skills, and abilities is going to be the most effective way to get you called back for that interview. And that's the end of my presentation. I'll open the floor to questions.
So I have a question. So I worked for the Virginia Employment Commission during the pandemic, and I was the only person on the switchboard. And I was fielding over, I promise you, over 1,000 calls a day. People calling, want to know, where their check was, how, what do they tell the electric companies, things of that nature. So how would I put that? Would I just say answered a multi-switch line, or would I say that I vetted over 1,000 calls a day?
You could say roughly or approximately. So that gives you room to be off by a couple of hundred in either way.
Okay.
Approximate and roughly, that's not exact. That's the flexible part of it. So definitely, but you definitely need to utilize that. You can say and we call it PBX, phone bank exchange,
Phone banking
or
exchange.
multi-line phone system, however you want to market it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So back to where you said about the don'ts on your resume. whenever you're applying for a job, um, should the high school diploma be taken off? It's not a requirement anymore.
If you have a degree, you don't need to put it on there.
Oh,
So
okay,
it's either high school diploma or it's a degree. Um,
okay.
Go
So
ahead.
like, what if you're in college, presently in college, but just have your high school diploma on?
Okay, if you're in college, you would put your university, you would put your in your course of study, the degree that you're trying to pursue, and then you put the expected graduation date.
Gotcha. And then
Okay.
also on my resume, I have like 10 years of volunteer experience. So how old should those volunteer experience be before I eliminate them?
All your work experience, including your volunteers, in order for it to be relevant, it has to be within the last 10 years because that's what they gauge as how much technology changes over. I mean, because you think back 10 years, we didn't have, half of the streaming services we have now. We didn't have any of the AI that we have now. So we're about to go into another rotation. So 10 years is as safe as you can go back in all your experience.
Hmm. Okay.
And I see a person by the name of A Finch raise their hand.
Yes, I wanted to know how will I address if I haven't had a job position in over 10 years due to illness. How would I address that on a resume because I have no experience?
Okay, you're the perfect candidate for a functional resume. Um, Within the last 10 years since you last worked, have you done anything supportive? Have you assisted with family? Have you assisted in any shape or way? Have you volunteered in anywhere? Or
No,
were you just strictly out of the working community just strictly because of your illness or your medical condition?
yes, that's what happened. I was strictly out of it and I just started with Melwood trying to get back into training for a job.
Okay, so you would build a functional resume, and see that's why the dates and times are last. In your case, my friend, you have to build your duties, your skill sets to be point on with the job you're trying to get. You can utilize, the training that you're receiving from Melwood with the mere thing that the employers, if you win them over before they get to your work history, then the dates wouldn't matter. That's the whole purpose of why the functional resume is so effective. They finish your resume before they find out how long you were out of work, or when was the last time you worked. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
all right, Mr. Hollis, you raise your hand again.
Hi. So anything that I've missed, do you have like the notes for the presentation?
I cannot release the presentation. What is it that you actually needed to actually receive? I know you guys will probably want the formulas. I can extract the formulas and give it to you, but I can't release the PowerPoint in its entirety. But the formulas, yes, I can give you those. But what is it that you actually wanted as far as notes, Mr. Hollis?
Um, just the notes, like what to include, what not to include on a resume.
Okay. Well, how about this? How about I offer a courtesy review to everyone on here? Um, if it's not too much for you, Mr. Flemings, if they can send you their resumes and then you can send their resumes to me and I can, give them a critique and make some recommendations. If that wouldn't be what we got, like what maybe what thinking like maybe how many people we got online? I mean, if you're willing to do it, 15 people. If you're willing to do it, then I'm willing to do it. Okay, I can give a critique. I can give a few pointers here. Okay, well, make this a little bit stronger, make this a little bit, weaker, or remove that. I have no problem. Okay, Mr. Wolf form. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
it's Wolf from. So I have worked retail for the past 10 years, and I'm trying to get into IT, and I have almost no relative experience in IT that I can transfer over. What should I do?
I would look at volunteership. I would also look at into apprenticeship programs. Um, but in most cases, especially on the high end of these jobs, especially with IT, no one's going to let you touch their $1 million server if you don't have any hands-on experience. And I get that, okay? But it's your responsibility in some shape or form to try and get that hands-on experience. The American Job Center and also the Department of Labor, they have the apprenticeship navigator. You can make contact with them, and they'll connect you. Or you can go on to the just do a search on the apprenticeship navigator website through the Department of Labor, and they'll be able to connect you to apprenticeship agencies within all the counties. Yes, it's very important that you get that hands-on experience because that's the key thing.
Okay.
I was just going to say that you can also on Google offers some free IT classes, and there's I think it's Corsica does as well, just to kind of give you a little bit of experience in with IT.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Okay, Mr. Bramble, you're muted, sir. Still don't hear you. Let me see. Yeah, it sounds like it could. You're not muted, so it sounds. Well, quite frankly, there's everyone's gonna have their own opinions about different things. Some people like Ford, some people like Chevy, some people like Japanese, some people like German. Um, Indeed is the best site out there, but with every good thing, there are bad things. There's a lot of scams associated with Indeed. Um, I can tell you that with Indeed, a job that has been posted for more than 90 days, and I'm speaking from experience from having a corporate Indeed account, a job that's been posted for more than 30 to 90 days, chances are we're not going to go back, we're going to look at it. Could you think about it? For every one job, we may get anywhere between 30 to 60 resumes. We go.
Yeah, it's his connection in the hotel that he's doing the best he can. So that's not on him. Mr. Brown, you're froze again. So the rest of your comments haven't been heard. I think he's reached the end of his presentation, unless you guys have any additional questions for him. Mr. Brownlee, are you with us?
Yeah,
Yeah. Now I know he finishes his presentation. Anybody have any additional questions? I will tell you that one of the things you need to consider is updating your LinkedIn or get a LinkedIn account. Those are good as well. I would suggest, yeah, he's gone. I would suggest that not only do you join LinkedIn, but just any network of